My name is Dale Mercer. I served with the National Park Service for 23 years. Spent most of that time in Washington State, assigned to Olympic National Forest. I was what you might call a lifer, boots on the ground, seasons in and out. Some rangers climb the ladder, head to DC, chase ranks and paperwork. I stayed where I started, in the field, in the trees. You don't stay that long unless the forest accepts you, or unless you've learned how to stay quiet enough for it to forget you exist. That's the difference. You don't conquer the woods. You survive them by being invisible to them. I kept to routines, kept the books clean, did my work without complaints. But in the fall of 2004, something changed. I got a call. October 8th, early morning. I remember the light. It was thin and silver, the kind that makes the evergreens seem like walls. They needed someone to fill a temporary assignment, a 1-week solo post, Tower 7. That tower was rarely used. High elevation, bad access. Long-term watch post meant only for fire season. I asked why. They said the last ranger posted there had left. That's the word they used. Just left. No report, no call in. Gear still in the tower. Helicopter did a flyover. Empty. And they wanted me to take over the assignment. I should have said no, but I didn't. I packed enough gear for a week. Food, batteries, backup batteries. Rifle. 2 radios. 1 mounted, 1 handheld. I set off before noon. The trail was overgrown. Technically, you're supposed to access Tower 7 by air, but the chopper pad up there was half collapsed. So I took the old service trail, 5 miles of incline, roots like fingers clawing through the dirt. By the 3rd mile, the silence started. Not just quiet. Silence. No birds, no insects. Even the wind felt like it didn't want to push too hard through the thuri. It was like walking underwater, except I could breathe. I told myself it was the elevation, higher up, colder air. Animals migrate down in October, but that didn't explain the pressure. The feeling that if I spoke, even just to clear my throat, something would hear me. Something close. I reached Tower 7 before dusk. It was a tall structure 30 feet off the ground, wooden legs creaking from wind fatigue, built in the 60s, updated never. Inside, cot, logbooks, comms panel, and a single lantern hung from the ceiling hook. On the desk sat a binder, the kind used for weekly maintenance logs. But there was no log from the previous ranger, just his boots, his coat, his flashlight, and his radio. Handheld, cracked casing, battery removed. The bed hadn't been slept in. Dust was undisturbed. It was like he just stood up and walked straight out the door. No trail, no distress beacon, no journal. But inside the binder, wedged between 2 pages of weather data, I found a note, folded once, written in pencil. It said, "Close the shutters before sunset. Keep your breaths even. Don't exhale with your mouth after dark. Don't match the rhythm. It's not yours." That last one didn't make sense. Not until later. I chalked it up to isolation. Cabin fever. Still, that night I shut the shutters. Every one. Something about those words. It didn't feel like superstition. It felt like protocol. A warning, left behind by someone who knew what would come next. Around 2 a.m., I was woken up. Not by sound, by stillness. I couldn't breathe. Not properly, like the air was resisting me. I opened my mouth, took a deep inhale, and outside, through the shuttered window, I heard it. A breath. Someone, or something, was breathing with me. I froze. It exhaled when I exhaled, matched me, slower, deeper. I sat there on that cot, staring into the dark, lungs tight, counting the seconds. 1, 2, 3. It stopped, just stopped, but I felt it, felt the absence. And then, a single step on the wooden landing outside. Heavy. Then, another. Slow, deliberate. Closer to the door. I waited, It waited. I held my breath. It didn't move. I exhaled, soft, through my nose, and I swear to you, on the other side of that wall, it exhaled too. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. At first light, I went outside, walked the perimeter. No tracks, no broken branches, no sign anyone had been near. But on the door frame, at shoulder height, was a smear. Looked like dirt. But when I touched it, it stuck to my glove like resin, smelled like wet bark, and something else, like an old wound. I radioed in, told base I thought I had a bear encounter. They didn't ask questions, just told me to finish out the rack. And that's when I realized, whatever happened to the last ranger, nobody was looking. Night 2, I tried to record the sounds, set up my field mic, activated my recorder before bed. That night, no breathing. Just silence. I woke up feeling almost normal, until I played back the recording. Time code, 3:47 a.m. A faint thump, then my own voice. But I hadn't spoken. Tower 7, I see it. I see it breathing. I see me breathing. The voice was mine. But I hadn't said those words. That wasn't a memory. It was something else, something using me. I left Tower 7 on foot 2 days early. Didn't radio it in, didn't pack properly. Just took the binder, the recorder, and left everything else. When I got back, they acted like nothing happened, said I was probably just tired. I turned in the tape, never saw it again. 2 months later, Tower 7 was marked for demolition. But that didn't stop what followed me. You think you leave the forest behind, but if it hears you, if it memorizes your breath, then every quiet room becomes a clearing, every shadow a tree, and every time you inhale, it exhales with you. This is Ranger Dale Mercer. I don't know if this will reach anyone, but if you hear breathing where there shouldn't be, don't hold your breath, and don't try to match it. It's not yours anymore. If you're still here, subscribe to MindFuel, because what you just heard is only the beginning. And in the next chapter, we'll play the recording they tried to erase. This story isn't just about the forest. It's about what watches from within it, what waits in the silence between your steps, what listens, not for your voice, not for your scent, but for your pattern, your rhythm, your breath. And once it's heard, you really heard you. It never forgets. If you're camping alone tonight, turn this off. Now, I don't say that lightly, because what happened to me didn't start with a scream or a crash in the dark. It didn't start with missing hikers or shredded tents. It started with something simple. I was logging temperatures, routine air quality report. That's when I first noticed it. I exhaled, and the forest replied, "I want to play you something now. It's not public. Never has been." This came from Unit 12, a ranger assigned to the same region 2 years before I was sent to Tower 7. This was pulled from dispatch archives. You'll hear his voice clearly, but listen beneath it. There's something else. Ranger Dispatch. This is Unit 12. You copy? Still at post. Weather stable. Cloud ceilings low, visibility dropping. Something stalking the ridgeline. I can't see it, but I hear it. Not walking, not moving, just breathing with me. It matches me, every time. If I stop breathing, it waits. If I breathe too fast, it gets closer. What the hell is this? That was his last transmission. His real name was Mark Leland. 4-year veteran. Clean record. He wasn't new. He wasn't reckless. He was the kind of ranger you want covering your zone. They found his camp hours later. Food still cooking, pack still zipped. But Mark, he was never found. What was recovered was his handheld radio. It was stuck in transmit, meaning from the moment he said, "breathing with me," something was listening. For hours. A few of us at the time suspected what really happened. We weren't supposed to say anything. The official file? Labeled environmental disorientation. But I remember reading the search report. I remember the last sentence. Heavy imprints located near camp perimeter. Spacing consistent with human stride, but lacking heel or toe pattern. Let me repeat that. Human stride. No heel, no toe. Like something copied his steps, like it wore his rhythm, but wasn't built to walk. And then it happened again. 2 years later. Different ranger, different tower, same breathing. That's when I started connecting the dots. Every ranger that spent more than 2 nights at certain posts, they began reporting strange audio interference. Some said they thought the radio tower was malfunctioning. Others said it felt like their own lungs were betraying them, like their body was syncing up to something else. No one put it in writing. Because when you do, it stays in your record. And once you get flagged as unstable, you don't get reassigned. You get buried in the wilderness. Literally. They'll put you somewhere no one wants to work. That's how I ended up at Tower 7. You're watching MindFuel. And this story? It isn't one of those hiker legends you hear around a campfire. This is pulled from field notes, ranger logs, wiped audio, and one surviving witness, me. So if you've made it this far, subscribe. Because what happens next? It doesn't just change how you see the forest. It changes how you breathe. Alone in the woods? Breathe wrong, and you'll be seen. The first time I ever heard the term silent spot, it came from an old colleague of mine. His name was Henry Atlee. Spent 12 years posted up north, back when they still allowed long-range solo assignments. He was the kind of ranger who kept to himself. The kind who knew every trick for crossing a dry creek bed without snapping a twig. When I ran into him at a maintenance summit in Spokane, he pulled me aside. No small talk, no coffee. He just said, "You ever been in a place where the trees listen?" I asked him what he meant. He said, "I call them dead zones. You can walk for hours with birds in your ears, wind in the pines, then you step 1 foot too far, and it's like the forest holds its breath." Henry told me there were places, specific, traceable coordinates on ranger maps, where even the animals stopped showing up. No nests, no tracks, not even spider webs. He called them the silent spots. He'd marked 5 of them on his own patrol grid. Always circular, always temporary. Sometimes they lasted a day. Sometimes they stayed for weeks. But the pattern was always the same. A deep pressure in your chest, a stillness in the leaves, and the unmistakable sensation that you were being watched, but not from behind, from above. We started comparing cases, not officially, just off the record. And what we found disturbed both of us. Multiple missing person reports, scattered across a 10-year period, had one recurring phrase. He said he felt watched. Not followed, not stalked, watched. It's subtle, but important, because the people who go missing in these zones don't leave behind the usual signs. There are no broken branches, no drag marks, no blood trails. Their footprints just end. And all that's left are the things they couldn't carry. I'll never forget the Daniels family case. A couple from Everett went camping near Hurricane Ridge. Their son, Eli, was 12, asthmatic. They had camped there before. Same spot, safe, accessible. On the second night, something changed. The mother woke up just after 1 a.m., said she felt a pressure in her chest, couldn't catch her breath. She turned toward the tent's front flap and saw that it had been unzipped from the outside. No one was there. Eli was gone. There was no noise, no scream, just the stillness. A stillness so absolute, the cricket stopped. The family never found him, and when search and rescue swept the area, they discovered two things. One, a torn inhaler crushed halfway into the soil like it had been stepped on, and two, claw marks on the inside of the tent wall. 4 deep rakes, not from a bear, from something using fingers. I was brought in to review the search radius. On paper, it looked thorough, gridded search, canine teams. But when I visited the campsite, I noticed something. 50 yards out, just beyond the tree line, was one of those silent spots. I stepped into it. The forest went mute. My ears popped. My throat tightened. And worst of all, I could hear myself breathing. Not loud, not irregular, but wrong. Too loud for a forest that quiet. Too obvious. I backed out. And when I did, it felt like I had escaped something. I know how that sounds. It's easy to dismiss. People vanish in the wilderness all the time. Falls, exposure, predators. But what you don't hear about, what never makes the reports, are the ones who vanish without sound, the ones who don't scream, who don't leave behind a trail, the ones who were last seen pausing, because they thought they saw something watching them from between the trees, or worse, from above them, and always, always, in the places where even the wind forgets how to move. You're listening to MindFuel. And if you're starting to wonder how far these zones stretch, you're asking the right question. Because in the next chapter, we pull the original logbooks from Tower 7. And in those pages, buried between barometric readings and soil moisture charts, are details that were never meant to be heard. Transmissions that shouldn't exist, voices that match no known ranger ID, and a breathing pattern that doesn't line up with any human. Next, Tower 7. Revisited. This account comes from Aaron Delgado, 34, solo backpacker, photographer by trade. Oregon's Mount Jefferson Wilderness, July of 2019. He was 2 nights into a 5-day loop around Hunts Cove. No cell reception. Just him, his gear, and the sound of rain moving through trees like distant applause. Aaron told us he'd been on that trail before. Knew every bend, every place to refill water. But that year, something was off. It was the quiet, like surgical quiet. No frogs, no bugs, not even the wind tapping trees together. Just this emptiness. He set camp near the base of a ridgeline, a flat patch tucked between old-growth firs. He remembered the air felt thin there, as if altitude had changed even though the elevation hadn't. That night, the rain let up, and that's when he noticed it. I was falling asleep when I heard it, soft at first. Breathing, outside the tent, but not wind through branches. It was He lay perfectly still, convinced it was his imagination. But then it happened again. A slow inhale, long, deep, then a low exhale, almost wet, almost congested. Aaron tried to convince himself it was a deer. Elk, maybe, but the pattern was too human, too close. And then it matched him. That's what did it for me. I inhaled, I exhaled, it exhaled. The timing was exact. I even tried to test it. He adjusted his rhythm, slowed down. It slowed with him, sped up. So did the thing outside. Then, in a moment of raw fear, Aaron held his breath. The forest froze. For 3, maybe 4 seconds, nothing, not a sound, and then a louder breath, raspy, closer, deliberate. I couldn't hold it. My chest locked up. I gasped, and it gasped louder, like it was mocking me. What followed wasn't subtle. It charged. Branches cracked. Dirt sprayed against the tent walls. Something lunged, fast and heavy. But the fabric held. And then, silence. No footsteps running away. No rustle of undergrowth. just the smell of damp earth and the weight of something just waiting. I laid there all night listening. It never moved again. But I knew, if I breathed wrong, it would. When he packed up at first light, he expected to see tracks, drag marks, anything. But the ground was untouched, pine needles undisturbed, like nothing had ever been there except one thing. Pressed into the canvas of his tent from the outside were 5 indentations, long, finger-shaped, and perfectly spaced, like something had knelt beside him, hand against the nylon. They weren't claws. They were fingers. That's what kept me up for months after. Whatever it was listening to me, breathing with me, waiting for me to mess up. Aaron never returned to the Jefferson Loop. He moved to Colorado 6 months later. Took a job in the city. He hasn't been back to a trailhead since, and he isn't the only one. They say you're alone out there, but that's not true. You're just unbothered until you breathe. Whatever is in those woods doesn't need to see. It doesn't need to track. It waits, listens, times itself with the rhythm of your lungs. And when you're most vulnerable, when you think you've slipped past it, it doesn't strike from instinct. It waits for permission. From you, a breath, a hiccup, a cough. That's the signal. And it will be listening. August 2020, 3 friends, Ty, Evan, and Liam, set out to hike a section of the North Cascades in Washington state. It was supposed to be a 4-day out and back. Their route followed an old fire road before veering into less marked territory, an overgrown pass known to experienced locals, not tourists. They had planned it months in advance. Good gear, experienced group, satellite GPS tracker. But when they returned, something had changed. Hi, yeah. I'm not sure if this is an emergency, but my brother got back from a trip and something's wrong. He won't talk. He just stares. He doesn't blink. And he keeps breathing off like he's trying to match me or something. Ty's sister made the call 36 hours after they returned. Ty, who'd been the most outgoing of the 3, hadn't spoken since stepping out of the truck. No fever, no visible wounds, but he wouldn't answer questions, wouldn't eat, wouldn't make eye contact, just sat on the edge of his bed, breathing, slowly, deeply, sometimes copying the rhythm of people in the room. He wasn't with us the whole way. He wandered off around night 2, just for a bit, he said. But, I don't think he came back when he said he did. Liam and Evan thought he was joking at first. Ty was known for pulling pranks, spooking people in the woods. But this wasn't a prank, because on the 3rd night, after Ty had rejoined them, they started noticing strange behavior. He wouldn't sleep, he wouldn't speak, and his breathing, always just slightly behind theirs, like he was listening, counting. Evan said it best. Evan, low, anxious recording from his phone. He was studying us. That's the only way I can describe it. Like he was trying to learn how to be Ty, but hadn't gotten it quite right. The final straw came on the drive home. Ty sat silently in the back seat. The entire time. Not a word. Not a blink. And then, around Olympia, Evan coughed. Ty coughed too. Same pitch, same rhythm, 2 seconds delayed. It was like someone playing back a sound, not reacting, just, repeating, but louder, almost like it was waiting for the cue. Back home, Ty remained unresponsive for 2 days. Doctors found nothing medically wrong. But at exactly 48 hours, he started speaking again. Only, it wasn't how he used to speak. He avoided contractions, repeated phrases, greeted people by name, too often. He blinked, but it felt timed, like he was trying to imitate normalcy. His sister said, "It's like, it's him. but it's not. Like someone studied his voice and face and is trying to wear them. That's when the others noticed something else. Ty's shadow, barely visible in low light, would sometimes move, out of sync. A half-second delay, as if whatever stood beside him wasn't quite sure when to follow. It happened once while Liam was filming a recap of their trip. He swears the footage, deleted hours later, showed Ty blinking, and his shadow blinking after. He was too still. Even when he moved, it felt rehearsed, like his body was a performance, like he knew how to look like Ty, but not how to be him. Eventually, Ty began joining group calls again, started showing up in public. People stopped asking questions, but those closest to him knew. The Ty that came back wasn't the same as the one who went in. There were little things. His scent changed, his handwriting reversed, slanting the wrong way. He started humming at night, but always in the exact pitch of whoever had last spoken to him. If you ask me, I think it found him, out there, and I don't think it let him go. I think it followed him back, as him. There are other stories like this. Hikers returning with no memory of the trail. Campers found a mile off route, speaking in the voices of their companions. Emergency responders who say the missing came back, only to go missing again days later. This time, for good. They're not the same when they return. Not completely. Because the forest doesn't just take, it copies, it learns, and sometimes it sends something back in your place. The Mist Trail is one of the most trafficked hiking routes in the Sierra Nevada. Tourists call it breathtaking, but not for the reasons you're about to hear. What happened on the morning of October 7th, 2014, was never officially closed in the Yosemite records. But the SAR team involved left their careers behind, and one of them hasn't spoken a word since. The call-out came just before dawn. A solo hiker, late 20s, named Valerie Moore, hadn't returned to her campsite the night before. Her friends reported her missing after she failed to respond to repeated texts. Unit 4 responding, moving up Switchback sector toward Vernal Fall Overlook. No sign of footprints outside Trail and Sea. Visibility medium. Copy that. By 7:12 a.m., 2 rescue teams had fanned out along the granite staircase. The trail was unusually empty for the time of year. That morning, something strange was already in the air, like the birds had vanished. Not a single marmot, no squirrel chatter, nothing. The team pressed on until they saw her. Unit 4, she's standing still, about 20 meters from the cliff edge. Eyes open, not moving. Copy. I have a visual. Moore, Miss Moore, can you hear me? Do not approach the ledge. She didn't respond, didn't flinch. One of the rangers approached with caution. 5 steps, maybe 6, close enough to see the color drain from her cheeks. She was upright, alive, but unmoving. That's when the team noticed something else. She wasn't breathing. I repeat, she's not blinking, not breathing. 10 full seconds of dead radio air followed. Then Frau. That was the last anyone ever heard from that ranger. His name was David Elkins, a 32-year-old seasoned SAR lead with 9 years in Yosemite service. They found his radio a mile down trail. They found Valerie's boots, empty, at the base of the overlook. But they never found him. 1 ranger, gone without a trace. 1 woman, vanished in plain sight. And 1 team, broken by something they still refuse to name. The case file is sealed, labeled exposure-related hallucination. But 1 redacted excerpt remained in the log margins, handwritten. She looked dead, but something behind her was breathing. The Mist Trail has since been reopened to the public, but hikers now report strange feelings of lightheadedness near the ledge. A few even say they saw someone watching them from inside the morning fog. And 1 hiker, just last year, claimed he felt his own breath being copied. He turned around. No one was there. But it wasn't just the mist trail. From Oregon to the Smokies, reports started rising. People who went in breathing and came out too quiet. It's not just legend anymore. Hidden within a cache of leaked intelligence reports from 2009, first dismissed as a hoax, was a file labeled NEATF/redacted/inhale. NEATF stands for National Environmental Anomalies Task Force, a short-lived but deeply funded division of U.S. Interior Operations. Its existence was denied for years, until someone on the inside talked. The file didn't detail an animal, not a weather anomaly, not seismic activity, but a biological rhythm, a pattern of breathing. The subjects didn't go missing all at once. It waited. It listened. It tracked the patterns we didn't control. Heartbeat, respiratory rhythm, panic. It doesn't hunt sound, it hunts rhythm, especially fear. The task force, according to the file, developed an emergency mitigation device, a compact respirator that would override a ranger's natural inhale-exhale pattern. Pulse-synced, emotion-resistant, programmed to level out fear responses. Only a handful were issued. We found an order manifest buried under procurement records, titled simply, Inhale Protocol. Shipment quantity, 12 units. Deployment, Olympic National Forest, Yosemite, Green River Basin, and one unnamed reservation in Utah. No follow-up orders were recorded, no retrievals either, but internal memos, heavily redacted, describe early field failures, units powering down mid-patrol. 2 rangers found comatose with the masks fused to their skin. Their vitals, stable, but something was wrong with their breathing. In one field interview, a former NEATF tech, speaking off record, said this: "You could always tell it was near when everyone got quiet. Not just their voices, their lungs, like the whole forest held its breath, waiting." He claimed it moved through the tree line not by scent or sound, but by lockstep biological rhythm. It synchronized, mimicked, matched your pulse until it was closer than you realized. Then, it accelerated, and if your heart rate followed, you never got away. That same tech warned of a fatal catch, adrenaline response. If you were trained, military, law enforcement, ranger, your fight-or-flight instinct was stronger, which meant it would find you faster, because panic was louder. One line in the transcript chilled even seasoned investigators. A scribbled note in the margin, possibly added later: "It doesn't chase you. It teaches your body how to bring it closer. It waits for fear to teach your lungs a new rhythm. And once they learn it, they never forget." The leaked report ended abruptly. No closing statement, no action plan, just a final timestamp from inside the Inhale Protocol's black site. 12:41 a.m. Rhythm lock detected, 12:43 a.m. Unit 3 off grid, 12:44 a.m. Silence recorded. Then, nothing. We've reached out to park rangers across the country. Some laughed, some said we had the wrong person, but 3 refused to speak at all. 1 mailed back our letter. No note, just a slip of paper inside. On it, 4 words written in red ink: "Don't breathe too loud." The GoPro was mailed anonymously, no return address, just a blank USB drive and a sticky note that said he wanted people to see it. The footage was raw. No edits, no music, no commentary. A single continuous file, 2 hours, 43 minutes, filmed in Olympic National Park. The metadata checks out. The uploader, known only by his handle Trail Logic, had over 200,000 subscribers. He specialized in minimalist overnights. No tent, no partner, just a hammock, a knife, and a camera. He begins the night by introducing the area, mildly remote, but nothing extraordinary. He laughs about the cold, mentions coyotes, shrugs off a weird pressure headache. Then he lays back. The night vision clicks on. We see tree trunks, fog, a distant owl. Normal. For the first 40 minutes, nothing happens. Then, around timestamp 004712, something changes. He stops talking, stops fidgeting. His breathing slows, becomes more deliberate. And that's when we see it. Just behind a stand of trees, barely caught in the infrared glow, a figure steps forward. Not fast, not aggressive, just one movement, forward. It's tall, lanky, unnaturally so. Limbs just slightly too long, posture slightly too still, and then it stops and waits. For 30 seconds, the only sound is his breath. Then, the thing takes a step when he exhales. Another breath, another step. It doesn't rush, doesn't stalk. It's not hunting him like prey. It's moving, with him, matching. His breath catches. You hear it. He realizes he's not alone. The camera jitters slightly. He's not asleep, but he doesn't look toward it. It's as if something keeps him still, a tension you can feel. And then, from directly behind the camera, just inches from the mic, you hear an exhale. Long, wet, too close. Not a human breath, not quite. More like something copying the idea of breath, trying it out. Slow and rattling, like lungs that forgot how to work, trying again. The figure vanishes when the breath finishes, not steps away. Gone. There's a moment, at 005210, where the footage goes grainy. Infrared flares white. But in that flash, for just 2 frames, you can see the reflection of eyes. Not in the woods, in the camera. It wasn't watching from a distance. It was mirroring him. Maybe even filming us. When the uploader's family reported him missing, his channel was still active. No sign of forced entry. The hammock and GoPro were recovered, but not him. Authorities ruled it exposure, said he probably wandered off. But the last frame of his footage, it tells a different story. It's a single still, likely captured as the battery died. The image is dark, blurry. But if you brighten it, sharpen the contrast, and slow it frame by frame, you'll see a face, pressed just inches from the lens. Not angry, not curious, just blank. And behind it, nothing. No forest, no night sky, just black. Like the face isn't in the world anymore. Like it's in between something else. We sent the footage to 3 sound engineers, all 3 confirmed. The exhale behind the camera didn't match the uploader's breathing pattern, but it did match something else. Ours. The viewers. Somehow, the breath reacts, adjusts, even syncs with playback. The 4th engineer we contacted never replied. Instead, we got an autoresponder. It simply read, "If you've watched it more than once, don't sleep outside. Ever." In the northern stretch of the Cascades, just shy of the Canadian border, there's a tower. Not marked on the updated maps anymore, not part of the public registry. It's built like the others. High steel supports, a square box with windows on all sides. But this one, Tower 7B, has been sealed since 1998. The Forest Service won't comment on it. No records, no access logs, but someone kept a recording, or part of one. Fire lookout. This is Watcher Post. I think I'm the last one still awake. I don't know what time it is anymore. Power flickered out 6 hours ago. It's outside, breathing louder now, like it's mocking me. The voice is trembling, exhausted, but not panicked. That part had already passed. Fire. Lookout. I held my breath. Didn't move, didn't even blink, just listened. It stopped. I thought it was gone, but then I felt it. It was still breathing, but this time, not from outside the window, from inside. The sound was mine. The transmission continues for another 2 minutes, mostly silence, but every so often, right beneath the hiss of static, you can hear 2 sets of breathing, one slow, one just half a beat behind, echoing, mimicking. Then, I tried holding my breath. Didn't work. It held mine. That was the last anyone heard from Tower 7B. When a Forest Service crew was sent up 3 days later, they found the windows intact. Door latched from the inside. Radio switched off. No body, no sign of forced entry. Only thing left was the logbook. Every page empty, except one. A single entry scrawled across the middle in faded ink. If it learns your rhythm, it becomes you. There's a reason some forests feel wrong when the wind dies, why your chest tightens, why your heartbeat falters, just for a second. It's not superstition. It's not paranoia. It's calibration. Because some things don't use eyes. They feel you. They wait in the stillness, listening, not for footsteps, but for rhythm. A breath out of time, a heart that skips, the tiniest falter, and the moment you're out of sync, they see you. So if you're out there tonight, don't breathe wrong.